Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. And today I'm doing the mid-year freakout tag. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first question, your favorite book so far, and I'm gonna have to say it's a tie between The Weight of Our Sky by Hannah Alcott. Sorry if I did not pronounce that right, I'm so sorry. And then The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Although this one is the abridged version, would not recommend buying this. Buy the abridged version. I made the mistake, but thankfully on my Hoopla app, I was able to listen to the full version, and this cut out so much that was so important to the story and made it so much better. But yeah, these two are my favorite. Count of Monte Cristo, revenge story, pretty much, with lots of fun characters and everything. And The Weight of Our Sky. Oh, this book. First of all, the cover is beautiful. Like, so much effort went into this cover. They didn't just say, no, we're gonna have something simple. No, they went in and they succeeded. All right, but this one is about a girl, oh, I forgot her name. Melody, who struggles with OCD, and she lives in Malaysia during the riots that took place between the Malaysians and the Chinese. And it's basically just her on her path trying to find her mother because they got separated. And wow, how it represented her OCD in such a good way. And you can tell the author did her research. I felt like reading through this, I was there with Melody trying to find her mother with her. It was so amazing. So, two faves. Highly recommend. All right, number 2, my favorite sequel. Okay, so it was not until I did this tag that I realized in the 6 months of 2020, of the 43 books I've read, one has been a sequel. I did not realize how many standalone books I read until now, and that sequel was Betrayed, so yay, gets the spot by default. Not that this was a bad book or anything, and there are many sequels I need to read this in the rest of the year, but one by default. Yeah, this is just a part of the House of Night series with Zoe and the gang, as she is a vampire in a vampire school, and she's unique and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's a good series. I mean, it's really the only series with a sequel I've read so far, so we'll see. New releases I haven't read, but I want to. Okay, first one is Outsmarting the Sociopath by Martha Stout. I read The Sociopath Next Door and really, really liked it. Unfortunately, I just read it when the sequel, I guess not really a sequel because it's a nonfiction book, but her other novel came out, so I've been waiting for that, so I'm really looking forward to reading that. The other one is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. Really looking forward to that. I've been seeing it pop up on BookTube, Instagram, and every time I go in Barnes & Noble, I see it, so I just need to pick it up and read it, because the story seems pretty interesting. And then the third book I actually do have, and that is If It Bleeds by Stephen King. Very much looking forward to this. As soon as I found out it was a sequel to The Outsider, I rushed to Barnes & Noble and got it. So that is something that's definitely on my radar. Alright, so the next is most anticipated release, and that would be Vicious Spirits by Cat Cho. So for Asian Readathon back in May, I read Wicked Fox. Loved it. Loved it so much. It was definitely high up on the list. It wasn't like, a 5-star read, but I still really enjoyed reading it, and I want to see where Myung and Jinu go. And I hear this one focuses more on the side characters, which there was one specific side character, the Goblin King, who I want to know more about. I loved him. He was sassy and everything, and a little flirty guy, and I want to see where he goes, so I really hope he's in the story. All right. So next is my biggest disappointment of 2020. Okay. So the first one was War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Going into this book, did not expect it to be like the movie, because they were like, this was published in such a different time than when the movie was made. I didn't expect this one to be action and all that stuff, but God, was this one boring. Oh my goodness. Like, if it wasn't this short, I probably would have DNF'd it. I just it made me so disappointed, because I know this is like one of the classics. This is one that started it all, that heavily inspired a lot of things, but oh my God, it was so boring. I will say one thing I did like about it is reading up on it, and I really hope this is true and someone didn't just make this up, but I read that the author, H.G. Wells, I read that he didn't like his job, didn't like his neighbors, and didn't like the town he lived in, so he wrote a book where he got to destroy all of those, and that's what happens in this book. So if that's true, that's pretty funny, and that kind of makes up for it, but still, it was just so boring. And then my next book, it was kind of my fault that I didn't like this, because I went in with super high expectations, and those expectations just weren't met. That was Lord of the Flies. So I went in thinking this book was going to be a bunch of kids killing each other and some brutal stuff, which might be a little fucked up, but I wanted to read about some gore and some wild stuff. But the killing didn't come till the end. The kids, I had to keep reminding myself, these are kids, that's why they're acting so stupid. But God, their decisions. Oh, I just wanted to slap them and be like, what are you doing? Just act right. It very much annoyed me, and then the lack of gore and my too high expectations just really led to the downfall of this book for me. And in a similar manner, where I didn't quite understand what the book was about and went in with too high expectations, was Warrior of the Wild. Now, don't get me wrong, this book was good. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was an okay read, but I went in with the idea that it was about a girl who gets kicked out of her village, and she has to go kill a god. All right, that's pretty right on so far. But where my idea kind of verged was, I thought her and the god fell in love, and then some crazy shit would happen, like maybe they'd go back to the village and conquer it, or like maybe it's a forbidden romance, something like that. But no, it wasn't. It was just about her killing the god with some normal people, falling in love with a normal person. And again, it wasn't bad. It's just I had such high expectations, and I feel like her falling in love with a god and the forbidden romance might have been a little more interesting, but to each his own. All right, so next one, biggest surprise. Okay, so the first of my biggest surprise was the Witcher series. I did not expect to read this series. The game sounded cool to me. It was one of those, maybe I'll play it one day. I knew it had a Netflix show, but it wasn't super on my radar. And until my boyfriend convinced me to read The Last Wish with him, it was so good. Oh my goodness, this book was so good. I enjoyed it so much. And then moving on to reading The Blood of Elves, while it was not as action-packed as The Last Wish, it definitely has a build, and I'm looking forward to the payoff, and I'm invested in this series now. I bought this one in a box set with the first 3, so I will be bulldozing through those very soon, because I love Geralt. I love Geralt of Rivia. Wow. And that's where my second surprise comes in with, okay, I read the books because of my boyfriend, and then I assumed we would go on to watch the show. Well, he convinced me to watch the first episode after I finished The Last Wish. And whenever I heard Henry Cavill was playing Geralt, I was like, I don't know about all that. How's Superman, this clean-cut, chiseled Superman, going to play rough and tough Geralt of Rivia who's not scared to get his hands dirty? I was wrong. Wow. Biggest surprise of 2020, Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia blew my mind and my ovaries. Moving on. My third biggest surprise of 2020 was I Am Legend. So I picked this up from a used bookstore, just like, it's cheap. I might as well give it a read really quick. Of course, I'd seen the movie, cried my eyes out when the dog was put down, spoilers. And I had recalled that people had said the book was a lot different from the movie. So I was like, I'll check it out. I liked the movie, don't get me wrong. Will Smith, yes, played it well. But the book was so good because instead of these crazy mutant zombies that will rip you apart, it was more vampire-like and got a lot deeper and was a very pleasant surprise. Like this was a 5-star read for me. I did not expect that, was very surprised, and I loved this book. I would highly, highly recommend this book. You just have to go in knowing it is significantly different from the movie, but I think it did a lot better, and it raised a lot more questions than the movie and got a lot deeper. So, highly recommend. All right. So, new favorite author. That could be someone who debuted or someone who's new to me personally. And that spot is taken by Junji Ito. I bought Uzumaki. I bought the big, thick collection, whatever it's called. I loved this book. I loved this so much. And then after I read this, first of all, it makes me want to read more of his stuff because some of this stuff, the imagery, was quite ooky spooky. Like, it creeped me out. But then going forward and seeing like interviews with him and stuff, he is adorable. He is the cutest little guy ever. He's like so sweet and quiet, and then he comes out with crazy stuff like this, and I'm like, yes, it's just such a different thing, and I just love it so much. And that's my newest fictional crush. I think you could guess it by now. It's Geralt of Rivia. Look at this man. Oh. And it wasn't even Henry Cavill as him in the Netflix show that got my heart thumping. It was him in the books. He is a daddy. Wow. Like, he is, come take care of me, slay me with your sword, let's be an amazing duo. Wow. He has my heart for eternity. Because normally I don't get fictional crushes. I'll appreciate characters. I really like a good romance. But normally I don't see a character in a book and I'm like, ooh. But Geralt of Rivia changed my mind. He did. Oh yes, he was chef's kiss perfection, and I very much look forward to seeing him in the future books, especially with how well he took care of Ciri. Oh, in such a protective daddy way. I was like, yes. So he is strong, handsome, and he can take care of kids. Ooh. All right, moving on. Newest favorite character. I really liked Kiri from Uzumaki. I felt she was in quite the terrifying situation, yet she still carried through and was dedicated to looking for her family and was dedicated to helping people too. About her, I really liked how giving she was and how much she cared about her family, even going on and doing things that hurt her just so her family could persevere. I really enjoyed that. And the other favorite character would have to be the Count. I loved the Count. He was intelligent and cunning and just, I loved it so much. And then he was sympathetic when he had to be and realized like he does not have to kill everyone in his path. And I really appreciated that. But he still got shit done. He took care of what he needs to take care of. All right. So a book that made me cry. All right. TV and movies can make me cry very easily. Like, you put a daddy-daughter situation and add some sadness or a dog dying, boom, you got me crying like a little baby. But books, it takes something special for it to make me cry. And that being said, I had 3 different books that made me cry. Like, oof. So the first one, Norwegian Wood. Ooh, this one dealt with some very heavy topics. I will not say specifically what made me cry because I don't want to give away any spoilers, but there were some topics in here that very much related to me, and I felt very relatable, and it just hit me in the heart. So I was crying real bad. The next book that made me cry was Sweet Bean Paste. Again, for the 3 of these, I cannot say what made me cry because it's a spoiler, but the tone of this book and everything, the tone of this book was a little more optimistic than Norwegian Wood, but there were still some things that just really sucker punched my heart. And then the third one, Wicked Fox. Again, tone of this was overall optimistic, I feel like, because it's a YA, so it kind of has that like YA tone, maybe a little edgy, maybe also a little happiness sprinkled in there, especially the ending. The ending made me happy, but right before the end, during the climax, there was a moment that I kind of saw from the beginning coming, and then it came, and I was like, just couldn't control the tears. All right, and then a book that made me happy. Okay, so a lot of the books I read were rather, I guess, hard-hitting. Not hard-hitting, but weren't like just happy and fluffy. But one book I did read that made me happy, it was fluffy, I enjoyed it, was The Matchmaker's List. This was just like a fun, romantic read. Sure, it did have its problems for me. It was a 3-star out of 5. But I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed the romance between the main character and the guy, and just how she went about it. It wasn't too much to think about. It was just something that made me happy. It was sad seeing that a lot of people in her community, because she's Indian, she comes from an Indian community, a lot of people in her community weren't super supportive of certain things, but the one closest to her, her grandmother, was just amazingly supportive, and I loved reading about that relationship. And sure, they did bicker a few times, but at the end of the day, they were there for each other, and I thought that was so lovely. And then the romance and how she progressed through them, I really enjoyed that one too. Alrighty, so the most beautiful books I've bought. I say books because there's more than one. So the first one I've already shown you, The Weight of Our Sky. I love this so much. Like, I love the color scheme and the imagery, and I feel like not a lot of books are this detailed in the artwork, and so I appreciate this a lot. The second book is going to be Sweet Bean Paste. I love the colors of it and everything, and I think it's simple and cute, but gets the point across. And then the other book is If I Had Your Face. I love this cover art. I also think it's simplistic, but also beautiful. And then the final question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I feel like that question's the same for nearly everyone, all of them. I know I'm not going to read all my books by the end of the year, and I don't have it too planned out. The most planning I do is the month before. I'll say, okay, I want to read this book, this book, this book, and this book. But that's the closest I get to planning. Or for things like Reading Rush or Koreadathon or Asian Readathon, I have a plan for that. So those are books I need to read. But other than that, if it's just a normal month with nothing going on, I'll just say, here's a list of books I want to read. Hopefully I get to them. And then other books end up trickling in there, and that's how it's done. But that being said, there is one book that I have to read or my boyfriend's going to kill me. Not really. He's not really. It's just, he read this book and he has been talking about it all week, and he's so excited to talk to me about it. He's like, when are you going to read it so we can talk about it? And I do want to read it for more than just to talk to him about it because it seems interesting, but also the fact that he's so hyped about this book makes me want to read it so that we can talk about it, and that is A Hero Born. Now, both of us read The Last Wish and The Blood of Elves around the same time. He liked The Last Wish, he liked The Blood of Elves, but not as much as I did. But this book, He loved this book. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him as invested in a book as he was in this. He keeps talking about it, but he doesn't want to say too much because he doesn't want to spoil it for me. He says there's a big reveal. So every day, every time I mention I'm reading a new book, he's like, so are you reading the Jin Young book? And I'm like, no, babe, it's Koreathon. I need to read my Koreathon books. And he'll send like a little sad face. And so probably after Koreathon, in the week intermission between Reading Rush and Koreathon, I will read that book. But other than that, again, I'm just going to read whatever the heck I want to. And then just read stuff that pertains to any challenges that I think would be fun. All right. So that is my mid-year freakout tag. Those are all the books that I had to talk about. There will be much more to come, and I hope to do one of these at the end of the year and answer more questions and hopefully have even more books to talk about. After Koreathon, I will make a book, I will make a video discussing what I've read because I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited to do the reading rush. And yeah, so if y'all feel any kind of way about these books, feel free to please talk to me in the comments because I love discussing and everything. I will leave my Instagram in the little description. And y'all have a great day. I'll see you next time.